The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge, you took a bullet for Ryan Luis Rodriguez presiding. We all rise for the Honorable Judge Rodriguez. Who's he talking about? Who took the bullet?
I don't know. You should know what the bailiff means.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. First, we'd like to take a moment to thank friend of the court, Dwight Hurst, for joining us as a special guest juror. Thank you, Dwight.
Heyo!
Okay, I guess that counts.
Your Honor, this jury's playing footsie with me. Stay on your side, Dwight.
I was told I was supposed to act like Ed McMahon.
Oh, well then you nailed it.
As long as it's not Vince McMahon.
Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Endgame, a 2006 action movie about a Secret Service agent and an intrepid reporter who attempt to solve the assassination of the president, only to uncover a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top.
No!
Yes. Not they all. Yes.
For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we're here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, except this time, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Big Ben Haslar, you are representing the prosecution, you lucky devil. You may proceed with your opening statement.
I'm not feeling the luck, honestly. Having to sit through that. Endgame. End space game. Even the title is incompetent, as there is no such term. Endgame no space is a chess term meaning a set of moves in the final stages of a match that force one of the players into checkmate. Also no space. I'm sure this movie, if they got a sequel, they'd probably try check space mate to be just as incompetent. Speaking of incompetent spelling, in the opening credits, did you notice that they spell Cuba Gooding Jr.'s name J.R. at the end? You keep watching for those dots in the titles, and it's just remarkable how inconsistent they are.
As this in who shot JR?
Yeah, exactly.
In the hand?
High five.
This is a film that tried to get a lighter sentence as a direct-to-DVD film, but we have evidence that it aimed to be a theatrical release by MGM until the Sony takeover. This is one of those films that the streaming services assume you do not want to watch. You go as far as to typing E and N into your search bar, and of course Avengers Endgame immediately pops up. You go END, and then you get End of Days, It Ends With Us in the mix, End Space G, and you get all of the Avengers, the Captain America films. It does slightly hurt me that Highlander Endgame isn't making an appearance, but you know.
Yes, it will.
End Space GA, give it a pause, and it's like, you mean Ender's Game? Surely you mean Ender's Game, or the End Game starring Marina Baccarin, or hey, even Rings of Power. We'll throw that in there for some reason. You can't mean this Cuba Gooding Jr. thing that we've got hidden way in the back. You just can't. And only at END space GAM does it give up and say, okay, here it is. On your head be it. We gave you every opportunity to watch the Avengers, and you chose not to. As incompetent as the title is, and as buried in the algorithm as you'll find it, you probably won't be surprised at all to find that there was no end game. There wasn't even a game, metaphorical or real, at the end. Spoilers, it was just a jealous love affair. They make you sit through this seemingly complicated thriller where there's cover-ups and either James Woods or Burt Reynolds is behind it, but no, they just throw a last-minute twist at the end that doesn't really connect the dots in a satisfactory way, but they don't bother to do that crucial third act where you can examine that fallout of that twist. Instead, they just can't end themselves soon enough. And maybe that was the end space game all along. The game being that their script was being written and they tried to connect the dots and no, we can't. Crap, end the game.
Thank you, Mr. Haslar. I know I want to watch Avengers Endgame instead, but I am stuck with this film.
When you
Appearing on
said
behalf of the
Fallout,
defense-
did you mean Fall Space Out? Just to be clear.
We'll never know.
Speaking of extra space, give me some, Dwight.
Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Dylan J. Schlender. Please present your opening statement.
Big Ben, you are too close to this movie. Come try and see it from my perspective, which I will lay out now. Endgame, 2006, follows a proud tradition of the political thriller hacker. We have other examples of this in the catalog. We have Assassination, with none other than Charlie Bronson as a Secret Service agent defending his then wife, Jill Ireland, who was playing the First Lady. We also have 2 movies featured in this very courtroom by the great Professor Jeremy Black, White House Down, Olympus Has Fallen. So where does Endgame 2006 fit into this pantheon? To say nothing of The Ambassador as well, another action political thriller with some conspiracy elements. This is a solid genre, and Endgame does a solid job working within the rules of it. Now, my colleague is going to tell you that the end doesn't make sense, that there is no end space game. But
There isn't.
Does, because you're too close to it. Having probably not watched the movie twice in a row, you weren't able to pick up on some of the more subtle elements at play in this film. But it's more than just the story. These kind of movies also thrive on the action, which was very solid. And we had a very solid cast working with this material, featuring, but not limited to, the aforementioned Burt Reynolds and James Woods. Cuba Gooding Jr. I don't know why you're calling him Cuba. You may,
Because that's his
Isn't
name.
that how you pronounce it?
No,
That
it's
is how
just
you
straight up
pronounce his
Cuba.
name.
Yeah.
Depends
heard
where
it
you're
both
from. It's a regional pronunciation.
Maybe. Ben is from Louisiana, so I'll cut him some slack. So, getting back to it, and obviously we'll go over this in more of our argumentation. This is a very solid piece of genre work that came out a little ahead of its time, 2006. We'd expect to see something like this probably a little later. This would be more of a post-2013 affair, but keeping it in 2006 makes it really work due to the reliance on cell phones and not smartphones. Really appreciate that. But we'll get more into it as the case evolves. So, Ben, come over here, look at my case to see that it is an elaborate web that you will be caught in, and I am the spider.
I will, because I need to copy some of your notes because it's slipping off my brain by the second.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender. Mr. Haslar, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
I think I'm going to start calling him Cuba Gooding Jr. My first exhibit is What Due Process? The film is about an investigation in the aftermath of a presidential assassination, which would really trigger one of the largest federal investigations possible. We don't see that here. Really, nobody seems to care except for a handful of characters, when in reality, there would be teams upon teams of people hopping all over this thing, even if it seemed cut and dry. And to prove my point, I would like to call in an expert witness to the stand. My dad, who oversaw Secret Service operations and... No, sadly not. My dad never did anything cool. He was a potato inspector. So when we put Super Size Me on trial, I'll be ready. But for now, you'll just
Where
have
the
to trust
hell
my
is he
research.
been?
If this happened, it would involve the FBI, the Secret Service, the Department of Homeland Security. Instead, they're just happy letting Cuba and Caitlin Collins here handle it. After such a
real quick, there is literally
Sure.
James Woods literally has a line in this movie where he mentions all those agencies having their fingers in this pie. We're seeing from one.
Yeah, where are
perspective.
they? Where are they?
We're seeing one perspective immediately after the assassination.
The thing is, they would be getting in his way a lot. They would be getting in his way
barely
every
a couple
step
days.
of the way. And let me continue.
Okay, go
After
ahead,
such
go
an
ahead.
incident, the scene would be locked down and the evidence would be carefully scrutinized. Everyone accessing this information would be heavily documented. There's no way Caitlin Collins over here would be admitted into these government offices this way to be allowed to handle it. In fact, I don't think we'd even put a Secret Service officer so close to the incident out on his own private boathouse. He would likely face an internal affairs investigation, a polygraph, and having to reconstruct his own timeline for investigators. The assassin, being terminally ill, wouldn't be enough for the investigators to sort of just shrug their shoulders, saying, there's got to be, there's probably no deeper motivation beneath all this. Cuba would need to ask a friend to get the strike team together. If he had probable cause, there would be satellite coverage, infiltration of all sorts, other tactics to successfully close in on budget Walton Goggins here in his operation. Taking Caitlin, a reporter...
Objection, it's clearly budget Peter Weller. What the hell?
I'll stipulate. It could be either one. Into a dangerous... everyone here as a witness dies, which is precisely why witness protection is a thing. Cuba would lose his badge and be investigated early on after ignoring these orders and participating in an unsanctioned gunplay and collaborating with a reporter. And the First Lady would be the most protected person on Earth at this point, having no breathing room to let Cuba in, even if he did have Krispy Kreme.
Now, Mr. Schlender, I lost the case for weapons based on this kind of nitpickery, and I'd like to hear your response.
All right, you lost the case for weapons because you saw one thing while another thing was happening, and where the hell was that kid's soup? Okay, so keep it to yourself, Your Honor, because everything Ben said I can explain. We have to understand that this movie is taking place literally within like a day or two of the actual event happening, and Cuba is indeed told to knock it off, right? And we have to remember, too, who's calling these shots. James Woods' character, Stevens, who would, spoilers, end up being one of the masterminds behind this plot. So him letting Cuba Gooding Jr. and his friend go rogue to take out the assassin, well, that ties up a loose end that he doesn't have to do quite nicely. Now, look, I'll admit, you do have to wonder, like, where are the FBI and things like that? But Cuba is moving in a different direction. No one else knows about Alexis Corporation except for him. They have the main suspect. They've got the information because they're the ones moving fast. They're ahead of everyone. Now, if you were to tell me that this took place over 3 weeks, you're absolutely right. All the stuff you're saying would make a lot more sense. It would be more locked down. But we've seen the speed of government work from attempted assassinations very recently. With the rise of political violence, we know it actually doesn't work that well. We've seen it in real life. So this movie was actually ahead of the time. It's totally believable. It's totally believable that Cuba, having information that no one else has, vis-a-vis the reporter, and that's why she's there, is able to make these leaps. And he is dangerous. I mean, 2 of his men died, 2 are wounded, and 1 is critically burned because he didn't stop, drop, and roll. You know, like there are repercussions for him going off the reservation like this, but his reasoning is sound, and we could probably get more into that later, Your Honor.
Whose reasoning?
Cuba's.
James Woods? Okay.
Well, and James Woods. No, everyone has actually pretty decent reasons for why they're behaving the way they are in this movie.
Sort of. If it weren't something like assassinating the president, it really is because they did something of that level that like makes it a little harder to swallow. If it were just like a mayor or something like that, and it were just local, you know, they could have gotten away with some of this.
I would like to point you to another movie that involves the president at the very highest level, where Gene Hackman actually plays the president, and Clint Eastwood plays a cat burglar who witnesses Gene Hackman killing someone. Now, you think there would be people all over that, but they actually keep that story very tight. It's called Absolute Power, in case anyone's wondering.
Based on a true story?
It was my philosophy teacher's favorite Clint Eastwood movie for some reason. It really surprised me because she loved
Wow.
so much. Yeah, I know.
I think that counts as evidence, Your Honor.
No, but my point is there's
the mule hadn't come out yet, to be fair.
Yes, exactly, right? So my point is there are ways you can do political thrillers that involve the president that do keep very tight casts, right? That do keep the action very focused.
Yes, there are, and this isn't one of them. Like the plot that they roll with isn't.
No, it is because it's happening within a couple days of it happening. But I'll stop interrupting.
You're saying nobody cares over the weekend? Like, yeah, we will pick up this investigation Monday.
I'm not saying nobody cares. I'm saying
kids got soccer.
Cuba is moving in directions that no one else is. Remember at the funeral, James Woods says, oh, well, we're in the early parts of the investigation. The sisters, like, I've been talking to cops all day. So the obvious directions are being handled. They're the ones running off on the conspiracy theory. That's why they're able to make so much headway without so much interference.
And they don't have a budget to like show like the other person leaving the house as Caitlin Collins rolls up. I would like to move on to the contrivances. This is a movie so bad and so full of them that you don't know which one to single out for exhibits because it's kind of just, all of it. Thelma's house getting blown up in the blink of an eye. You'd think Caitlin Collins would be all over that. But also, given the connection to the president's assassin, bomb squads and arson investigators and FBI media outlets would also be all over the scene. Instead, we just have a single transition that's quickly forgotten about. Cuba gets so drunk that he has to take his pants off and stare at the moon, which is something I had to do after watching this movie. Sorry, neighbors. And speaking of that boat, like it has these air tanks that just like kind of neatly fly into the water after the boat blows up, which is so annoying. And the air tanks they even stay underwater for a second underwater fight towards the end of the film. This is just lazy squared. Then
he
later
dives into the water with the second tank.
No, it was the same one. Okay, I'll stipulate. I didn't watch that closely, but at least the first one, you have to admit that was stupid. Then
It's
later
an
in the
action
investigation,
movie, though. There was an explosion. Come on.
It was?
Then later in the investigation, Cuba walks into prison, is just told in the stairwell that there's someone here he should interview and that it's already taken care of. Here's your clearance. And then Caitlin Collins just shows up like immediately as if she teleported in for the tag along, not giving you any time to breathe, just trying to rush as fast as they can to get to the next gunfight or car chase. I think that they think if they just get to that next action scene quickly, nobody can stop to ask questions about how the due process is absolutely missing in all of this. And from a shooting perspective, you can almost feel how desperate they are to stitch it all together. Like, okay, we've only got the stairwell for 10 minutes. Go, go, go. Oh, shoot, we probably should have a car chase in here, huh? Okay, well, let's have one of these guys get run over. And then, that'll be our chase. And then we can cram some exposition in after that. There's a forensic girl who serves a similar purpose here as well. She just kind of shows up with folders whenever she's needed to tell to tell Cuba all the information he needs to move on. The classic rule in film is to show, don't tell. And this movie is all tell. There's a classic CSI bullcrap like enlarging faces. Thankfully, they didn't say enhance it, but I'm sure they wanted to. Then Caitlin's phone is just so annoying. It beeps at the most convenient junctures. She even calls herself to get out of a conversation, and they have to demonstrate how she did it when she leaves the government building because it was just so confusing, right? Oh, she had a second phone. See, I'm going to call myself and let it ring outside, even though I just called myself inside. So in short, jurors, whether it's in evidence handling, investigative procedure, character motivation, or just pure coincidence, the writing tactic is just get to the next scene quick and make sure it has some action in it to keep them happy. And I am not happy. There is clear evidence of multiple rewrites in all of this without proper cleanup. And if you feel it slipped right off your brain, to borrow a Rodriguezism, or a drop of water on the hot skillet of your mind, to borrow a Schlenderism, this is why. Too many rewrites and too little narrative threads for you to grab onto.
All right, I do want to address some of these things because I do think it's very important that some of the stuff you're saying is right in the context of what's happening in the universe of the movie. They are not following a lot of the rules. Cuba Gooding Jr. is operating outside of his authority. Like when he throws his badge down on the cop car and starts shooting at the other car, like the guy's a loose cannon, right? He probably should be stopped. James Woods is thinking, but maybe if he takes out discount Peter Weller, and he has connections. Don't forget, Cuba Gooding Jr. is attached to Burt Reynolds, the general, and his other buddy. That's how he was able to put the team together. So I appreciate some of your nitpicks, but in the context of the movie, these things all work. I grant you, if we were to believe this was happening over weeks, he absolutely would have gotten pulled. But we have to remember this is
my point isn't
very medically and very fresh.
Point isn't it's more the convenience, just ooh, then all of a sudden the person shows up with the file and who's this person? What's the file? What were they working on? It's just it's too convenient that it just pops up. Yeah, they do, and it's just a quick line that's blink and you miss it, and it's
And Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character is well connected enough. He has these relationships that he's able to utilize to get to places that he otherwise wouldn't be able to get through the normal processes. That's a normal action trope. We see it all the time. How often do we see a cop smirk at the secretary to get the file that I'm really not supposed to show you this, but
I would prefer that. I would so prefer that.
No, but he's just leveraging his connections because he's clearly a good agent.
These connections aren't established. They just pop up out of nowhere.
No, it's because they were established in the past. We are seeing the most interesting moment of Cuba Gooding Jr.'s life. We're not seeing his whole buildup in the Secret Service or when he was in the military and how he established all these things. You can believe that a man who's best friends with the president and a great Secret Service agent has cultivated these kind of connections and respect.
Chewbacca owes him a life debt, man.
You can call in these kind of favors. Like, it would be more unbelievable if he didn't have a bunch of favors to call in Washington, D.C. Like, what the hell have you been doing for your career?
Secret Service people don't have lives. We know this. I'd like to move on before I take up too much of my time to the way it's edited and shot. This film is so ugly to look at, and if the action is the payoff, it ain't worth it. Early in the film, we get this ugly-looking bullet time where Cuba literally tries to catch a bullet and then it changes its direction. And then we'll see a guy getting hit by a truck, but it looks more like he lost a knife fight afterwards, the way his shirt is kind of neatly cut up. Later, Cuba is in this dark interview room wearing his cool sunglasses with a table that projects this bright neon light from the base of it. Yeah, that's practical. It's like the lighting guy just learned about base light projection and needed to demonstrate it for a film school homework assignment. And speaking of how it's shot, it's often done so without composites. So we're looking at blown out colors from a window and then a black silhouetted character whose identity we're not hiding. Or people walking from a dark porch into a lawn that's as lit as the sun because the camera crew didn't have enough time to do 2 takes. Apparently, they just had 1 shot to make it work. People walk past the focal length of the film often, or the lens often, while still talking. And there's even one big out of focus beam taking up more than half of the shot in front of the actors. Twice I saw that. I dabble as a photographer. Check out ben.haslar on Instagram if you're curious. I'm not a master. I do struggle to balance all these many different elements. I have to feel that whoever shot this didn't wrestle with any of that thing that they were supposed to. They just thought their job was to point the camera and hit record. And as a result, this is one of the ugliest films I think I've seen in recent memory.
I love an attorney who's his own expert witness.
Yes.
And to be fair to
so
Ben,
witness your expert.
his photography is very good. You should look at the pictures he took at the zoo. You have the one, I think it's the monkey that's yawning or whatever. It's very good.
I have one of his photos hanging on my wall.
Yeah, no, so Ben's good. But one of the things that we see in some action movies like this, and actually we just plugged your Instagram, let's plug Ryan's show, One Track Mind. I was on there talking with him about the Warriors. And when you listen to the audio commentary on that, they're talking about these quote unquote bad shots because of they weren't using sets, right? They were actually filming in New York and things. And so when you're actually filming, in this case in Spokane, sometimes the necessity of these bad shots, they come up. I forget the name of the cinematographer for the Warriors right now at the top of my head, but he wrote a book called Every Frame of Rembrandt, right? Where he goes into this detail where sometimes you do have that, like you mentioned about the walking past the focal length, having these obstructions in view. These are things that happen when you're filming offset. So how intentional it is versus how much that's what they had to work with, maybe that's open for debate, but that does not drag it down to bad because there's lots of precedent for that when you're not filming on a set.
No, it just feels like they're trying to complete the assignment. They had limited time, and you can feel it.
No, I feel what that does is it helps establish some of the tension, right? Because you're right, a big part of this movie is getting to the action scenes, which are amazing, and we'll talk more about those in a minute, I'm sure.
Who jumps through a forklift, man, and shoots in the air. It's awesome.
I just want to add that the cinematographer for the Warriors was Andrew Laszlo.
Laszlo, yes, and he wrote a book called Every Frame of Rembrandt. I mean, talk about the ego on that guy, am I right? But
watch
listen
out,
to Ryan
Laszlo, Panaflex.
Yeah, listen to One Track Mind with Ryan Reese Rodriguez for more on Laszlo there. But so Ben, before I keep rambling, I'll just let you wrap up your points.
My last exhibit is the twist, which makes me so mad. It's not the kind of twist where you're like, oh, I gotta rewatch this because now I'll see it in a whole new light, but mad because they think they're so clever when they took an easy way out. The clues were there to pick up on, but they're discarded because you thought it was just a lame misdirect because it didn't really make sense. But nope, the lamest explanation was the one that they went with. So yeah, the First Lady did it because the president was having an affair. Instead of doing it herself, killing the president herself, I have to imagine there are plenty of ways for her to do that. Ways I was not prepared to Google, by the way, for fear of being put on some watch list.
That's why I was Googling that. Right.
How to kill the president. But the way she goes about it has to be the most complicated, least likely way to succeed. Something more simple like poisoning or pushing down some stairs. She contracts a private security contractor networks and the head of a Secret Service organization to bring on a whole web of accomplices, which is stupid. Any of whom could have turned her in the moment they were appalled by the idea. They then recruit a terminally ill gunman as the fall guy, and the head of the Secret Service even passes him a weapon instead of using a much more sensible method like a remote weapon drop or other intermediaries, or as we've seen in real life, use a rifle from above, which would probably be easier for him to set up a blind spot for if he were an accomplice with the First Lady. Further, this is all on tape that apparently nobody caught for something as high profile as a presidential assassination. There would be multiple agencies going over all of these tapes repeatedly. Further, why? Why does the Secret Service guy risk his career and life to get entangled with this plot? The film never establishes any blackmail that the First Lady has on him, on a ideological motive, a financial incentive, or political gain, or a relationship, or really any reason why he has to work with the First Lady. It just shows that they kind of know each other once in the movie, and that's all we're given. For her to somehow convince him and then have him enlist the help of other people has got to be the dumbest way for anybody to go about this. And if this were in real life, they would all get implicated almost immediately. The only reason we know all of this is because she confesses to force the conclusion, which is also a dumb thing for her to do. Honestly, if she wanted real revenge, she could have divorced his ass, published a tell-all book about his failings of character, and that would be game over for him. And on that, the prosecution will rest.
Game space over.
It's all one word.
Mr. Schlender, would you care to respond to this before moving on to your argumentation?
We can move on to for the sake of going on, I can move on to my argumentation and address the ending here, because it is an important part and I knew it would be coming up. So let me dive right into that, if I may, Your Honor.
Please do.
All right. So when we're in the prison, and he's talking to the convict, he says everything was compartmentalized, right? That way no one knew what was going on. And we kind of see that structure going on for the assassination attempt. It was to insulate the First Lady. Why Stevens gets involved? It's entirely possible that Stevens and the First Lady were having an affair. It was entirely possible that we see the First Lady and the publisher cahooting. Now, what's important about what's not revealed goes back to what the First Lady said. You're too close. You're too close when you're watching this movie. There are pieces on the board we never saw. Like,
that's easy to write, then, isn't it?
Well, it is, because you got to remember, this movie's basically happening in real time. He's chasing down the clues as they're happening. There's not going to be a lot of not everything can get tied up with a neat little bow. And the fact that he would dismiss the idea, that didn't even have the idea that the First Lady was involved, means there was a whole part of the game he wasn't seeing. That's why he was going to the general. That's why they were looking into the CIA aspect. That's why they were looking at Stevens. There are pieces at play and forces at work that Cuba Gooding Jr. and the reporter did not know about. But as the end clearly says, she's going to keep digging. She's going to get to the truth. Now, to the other point, why didn't the First Lady just divorce his ass and write a tell-all book? Because you can have much more esteem being a First Lady widow. I mean, let's look at a real life example.
Jackie O.
Jackie O married the Greek guy there, Aristotle Onassis. Thank you.
Yeah, the Greek guy.
Right. Yeah. Well, because I was just thinking about the movie The Greek.
Greeky Magoo, I believe.
Yes, and Laszlo Aristopoulos. Yeah. So,
I think they had a big fat Greek wedding, if I'm not mistaken.
So she gets to ride the coattails of her husband's legacy, and her reputation is 100% intact. Because let's face it, if she did divorce and wrote a tell-all book, I mean, that just makes her look, it doesn't make her necessarily look good. She has 100% of her dignity intact. With this
how would that make her not look good?
Well, because it would just be her side of the story, right? And you have to remember, she was.
And should get that Prime documentary, yeah.
Yeah, for all the good that's done. Was it like that Canadian prince up there now, right?
It's the one who got cheated on, Ben. She lost the relationship.
The point is, and here's the point, because Cuba Gooding Jr. even says this when he's talking to the mistress on the other phone, which I love that we don't get to know a lot about her, that she just exists. That's very well done. I mean, you're talking about, showing here. Well, there you go. It doesn't go over this huge history of like, well, when you guys met 20 years ago, no. It's just he was having an affair. Cuba Gooding Jr. says the president was going to divorce his wife. So obviously she knew that the marriage was over, right? So imagine the president openly leaving the first lady for another woman at the time in 2006. We can probably imagine it pretty easily today. I'm not going to lie. But in 2006, it's like, what the heck? Now granted, we're coming, like there's still like the Clinton sex scandal. We know presidents have affairs and things like that, but they don't get divorced. Eisenhower didn't divorce his wife. Clinton didn't divorce his wife.
They also didn't get murdered.
That's true. Well, yeah, it's true. They didn't get murdered, but you got to remember too, this is also a political thriller action hacker. You got to have
hacker
to get things started.
Hacker. There's the word. You heard it.
Hacker doesn't mean bad. Hacker doesn't mean bad.
He said it's a haction movie, though.
I said it was a hacker in my opening statement.
Hacker. I barely knew her.
So what you're saying is like this film solved all plot holes because you're just like too close to it. Like, oh, why did the toys freeze up in Toy Story? Well, you're just too close to it. Why did Obi-Wan tell Luke about his father? Well, you're just too close to it. Like we solved it, guys. We don't have to write at all anymore. We don't have to connect any dots.
Ben, let me answer. We're seeing it through a very narrow perspective. We're seeing it through Cuba Gooding Jr. and the reporter. In real time over 2 days. It turns out the conspiracy was much bigger than this and went down avenues that they did not that they did not investigate, that they didn't have the opportunity to investigate, but that she is going to be investigating now. Will this reveal the first lady? Is she Rosalia or Isles in that? I don't know. I've never actually watched the show.
Who cares?
But anyway, so is she going to reveal the plot? Almost certainly. So, but I'd like to move on because the juries can either accept the fact that there were pieces at play as revealed at the end that they didn't know about, or they can just, be confused and scratching their head like you, Ben. But I'd like to move on to some other argumentation, if I may, Your Honor.
You may.
Okay.
All right. I got two big things that I want to talk about here. And I think one of the most important things to talk about, this is an action movie, right? And we get great action. Cuba Gooding Jr. coming out of the water, shooting those two guys. The reporter freaking out about it. Actually, I thought that was very well executed, where he's like, they're gone. He's like, what do you mean they're gone? He's like, right there, pointing to the body. He's like, where's my purse? It was very, very good stuff. A nice levity after that. And actually, speaking of levity, too, I mean, come on, Cuba Gooding Jr. farts in her face. That's hilarious, guys. Come on. Can I get a laugh for that? I think that was wonderful.
He didn't even know they were making a movie.
Yeah, right?
This movie farted in my face.
I mean, let me tell you something there. That Rosalie now, every time she goes to a con, the question could come up. What's it like to have Cuba Gooding Jr. fart in your face? And there is an answer to it. Whether or not she'll give it, I don't know. My point being, let's keep looking at the action. The best car chase we see.
The world may never know.
The world, but that's
we can
what I'm
all
saying.
imagine.
We can, can't we? So,
smelled like strawberries, interestingly enough.
when we have the main heavy on the road and he shoots the motorcycle and he shoots the car, and then we're intersplicing this with the gunfight on the school bus, this is pure cinema. The music changed, the kids having a wonderful time, and she's like, you gotta stop, it's a bus, it's a school bus, it's a school bus, and he slams on the brakes, and the bad guy pointing the gun at the kids going bang bang, and they actually squirt him in the face, and your heart stops for that split second, like, oh my god, is he going to shoot in response? But he doesn't. That scene is executed impeccably, and it achieves all of its goals, and it was actually really inspired. Like, a hacker does not have to work that hard for a good car chase. Even just shooting the motorcycle guy was enough. But that school bus, cherry on top, flawless execution. We have the raid that happened beforehand. We have their final fight underwater. There is a lot of good action, and ultimately that is what we are here for. Cuba Gooding Jr. has the physicality and the chops to be a pretty good hack action guy, in the vein of Liam Neeson, Gerard Butler, so that's my point there, Your Honor. I'll let Ben respond to it if he likes to. You can't argue with these action set pieces. They
Watch me.
All right, let's hear it.
We have different definitions of impeccable. I think like the action is passable at best, but it's very frenetic. Like, it uses a lot of shaky cam, which is sort of an easy way, and like quick cuts. So like, it's an easy way to sort of stitch it all together. When
2006,
you really just
though, that's what they were doing. That was the style in 2006.
Jurassic Park was 1992. What's your point?
This movie This movie
Terminator 2 is
feels more
1992.
modern.
Okay.
Because Ben's falling into the trap. Because this movie feels more modern. This really
1991.
feels
Okay.
like it's the late.
No,
2010s.
it uses quick frenetic cuts, and then like has a long thing on like the one thing they were actually able to shoot well, like him putting out the fire like with the blanket. And it's like, okay, with like 10 seconds of this sort of thing, and it really is like, does the action play out well? Like it doesn't. Like, you're not rooting for anything to happen in all this. You're just like happy that there's action because we're not
you
like
want to catch the bad
having them
guy.
in a file room anymore. No, I don't know. Like you don't really know who this
You want the bad guy
is.
to get away?
You don't know who he is.
Yeah.
You don't know how he's tied to any of this. It's just like all of a sudden we need an action sequence. All of a sudden we need a
know
car
he's
chase.
the bad guy. We
Not
see
all,
him
not in all cases. Not when like when witnesses run over. In that
Where's
case,
our
we do.
judge?
Yeah, not in all cases. And yeah, from that bus coming, it's like so irritating. I was like shooting motorcycles and whatever, and it's like, oh, here's the bus, and he's shooting, and here's the bus. And like when it finally bends the corner, like Caitlin Collins must have something like 40/20 vision to like spot it all the way around the corner and like stop, you can't shoot the kids. This is just so contrived.
That's not how vision works, is it?
I look, first of all, she acknowledges the bus when the bus shows up, okay? Not before. And you can see it around the bend, but regardless, I think we'll have to let the jury decide on the action. I think a lot of it serves a good narrative purpose as well. A lot of it is really cool, and a lot of it's believable because Cuba Gooding Jr. actually has the physicality for it. But I'd like to move on to my final point, if I may, Your Honor.
You may.
Please.
So there is a little more depth to this movie than even I was expecting, to be honest with you. Cuba Gooding Jr., you were talking about how he was drinking and taking his pants off on the dock. His best friend, one of his best friends, who happened to be the president, that happened to be his job to protect and give his life for, just died. Cuba Gooding Jr. is processing a lot of grief throughout this movie, which is, I think, very interesting. And then the first lady, the reveal at the end that she was behind everything, hell have no fury like a woman scorned. So there are some interesting emotional elements at play in this, that you murdered the president because it was personal, that it wasn't political, that it wasn't like some grand conspiracy, right? Like it wasn't the stonecutters pulling the levers in the background, or some secret shadow government, taking care of thing, or it wasn't the CIA, it'd be like, imagine like finding out that like JFK was killed because Jackie O was tired of the cheating, it'd be like, what a thud. Like, oh my God, my heart.
But Dylan, that is how it happened.
Hey, there we go, Ryan. I like it. I like the theory.
Hang on just a second. I got to get on Reddit here. Let's see. Our JFK theories.
Careful what you Google.
I think seeing some of these emotional impacts that we had, and let's talk about one of the best scenes in the movie when Burt Reynolds and James Woods, who, like, let's face it, these two guys are fantastic in this, and they're going like 40%. You know what I mean? That's just how good they are. Like you could tell that they knew the kind of movie they were in, and they delivered impeccable performances. Like Burt Reynolds decided to do a Southern accent and no one stopped him, and it works, And when they're at the wake,
he's
like,
very busy in between his takes from sitcom appearances.
Right? And he's like, I thought you were retired. And he's like, oh, let me just show you how little that actually means, So you had that great clash, two amazing actors going at it for that scene. So I guess that's what I want to say, Your Honor, for my final point, is that there is some emotional depth to this movie. It is about friendship. It is about betrayal. These are all themes that we see play out in the movie to good effect. Look, they're not the main thing, but it's like the sprinkles on the ice cream, right? The ice cream's good enough, but you put some of those chocolate jimmies on there, impeccable. And then the school bus scene, that's the cherry on top. The rest of the action's all the whipped cream, and we got ourselves a sundae, people.
Dylan, you stumbled on a movie I would actually like to watch, an alternate timeline where Jacqueline Kennedy kills JFK. I would be interested in that. This movie ain't that.
Hey, it's something to think about, I suppose. But I will rest there, Your Honor.
Okay. All sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Haslar, you may begin.
The real crime here is the proliferation of crap. Like many, I've tried some creative endeavors. I've written a few novels that will likely never see a publisher's screen. I've started a dozen more, but often find myself mired by the rules of the world that I'm working in. When I write anything, I constantly find myself asking, does this make sense for the world? Is this something that the character would do? How can I get to the next chapter in a way that fits everyone's motivations and their own common sense given my scenario? And more, I find myself getting trapped and forced into that narrative corner that I then have to either rework backwards far enough to fix or examine if it makes sense or makes more sense to go in a whole new direction that I hadn't planned for. As a result, lots of unfinished ideas and discarded dreams. Apparently, what I should have done is just sell the crap. If it doesn't make sense for the world, ignore it. If it's something that the character would do, make them do it anyway. If I want to get to the next chapter from where I am, drop the most convenient clue in everyone's lap just to get there. Or in the case of photography, just point, shoot, don't take the time to compose, and waste everyone's precious time.
It's probably advice you should take.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schlender, please present your closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. Big Ben is struggling with his novels because he's struggling with the very idea of fiction, ladies and gentlemen. This idea that once you craft a character, he's made of marble and stone and can't change. He can't love, he can't feel. Everything he does has to rationally lead from one thing to another. That's not how humans work, Ben. That's why your stories aren't working. And that's why Endgame works, because you have humans operating through grief, through lust, through like absolute emotional rawness.
Let's go back to lust.
A little bit of lust here, you know. Like James Woods is clearly very lustful. I mean, the guy says hey, when the wife's away, he'll play in the mansion, right? That's the point of stories like this, Ben, is that you can cheat because of the genre. There'll be some contrivances, yes, but it's to serve a larger purpose of telling a pretty good conspiracy story and having some great action set pieces. And that's what this movie is ultimately really about. So you can't keep putting people in little boxes. You have to give yourself permission to cheat. You have to give yourself permission to say, oh my God,
it's a cheat day.
he did something out of character. Has anyone here always quote unquote been in character? Yes. What does that mean for a real human? What you're describing, Ben, is called telos. That there's a natural arc to history, that there's something we're all inextricably moving towards. Maybe there is. But to get there, it's not a straight line. There's lots of twists and turns and curves. And maybe you don't end up there, Ben. Maybe that's why your novels aren't working. And maybe that's why Endgame and that's why Endgame got made. And that's why Endgame works. It's not afraid of those twists and turns. It embraces them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. This is a hacker. But this is not a guilty movie. This is a movie that had goals, and it reached those goals. It had a great cast. It had a good idea, and it executed on all fronts. Again, in 2006. I know it feels a lot more modern than that. 2006. For a 2006 action movie, hit every nail on the head. Thank you.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Dwight Hurst, Mr. Maynard Bangs, and Mr. Talk to Me. You might need Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You've all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Right this way? You know, it's just like my old mom used to tell me. The quickest way to reach your goals is to lower your expectations. Thank you, bailiff. Dwight, you want to be the...
Are we in here?
No, Dwight. Yeah. Well, Dwight's going to be the interview, so I'll foreman.
Okay, cool.
And so I'll lead this, and then.
But we're only 3 men. Oh God.
And the baby. Dwight, don't bring your baby.
And our baby is the movie Endgame.
That's right. Just a little baby. All right. So what are we thinking? Dwight, I'd like to hear from you first. You were the loudest.
Well, I'll tell you what. I thought these were actually really good arguments to draw from this movie. I'll be honest, when I was sitting watching it, I was like, wow, I wonder what Dylan is going to pull out here on
What do you
this.
think
And
we
he
do here, Dwight? You think we're just playing around every week?
no,
We're
no. Yeah,
professionals.
exactly. Well, I knew there was something in store. I knew there was something coming. Because he didn't try to bribe me to vote for him, so I figured he must have something up his sleeve. But yeah, I thought he did a good job. I mean, it really, to me, it sounds like the crux of these arguments comes down to action versus plot in a way. I think that Ben brought up a lot of the things that took me out the most were, the twist at the end. It did seem pretty silly. He didn't mention the one thing that took me out of it the most was why did they start killing everybody else? That didn't get discussed, which I thought was one of the most glaring things that took me out. But is they could have just not killed anyone else and it would have sounded kind of crazy, right? So either way, either defending or putting that on, though, didn't get talked about. But then there's the action, and Dylan put forth a pretty good argument. I thought the whole shooting passerbys when that was being chased, I'll be honest, I hadn't really seen that in another movie. So that was at least an idea.
To me, I don't agree that it's an action movie. It has action scenes.
Right. And that's the thing, is the action scenes worth it. So yeah, that's a good point. You don't feel like it was acting enough to be action.
And it's not an edge of your seat thrill ride. It's not Gone in 60 Seconds. It's not The Rock.
It's suspense.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not a thriller.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of use those a little similarly, like synonymously, but except maybe thriller makes your blood run a little cold too. Like it's a little, there's a little horror element to thriller. And so I guess I would say this is more of a suspense. But I think political thriller covers it.
Yeah, and that goes back to plot then, which is a good point, because you really want some of the plot to hang together. I'm curious what you guys thought of the ending of this movie. Not there's the twist, and then there's the ending that is just kind of like, that's what I felt like the last scene was just kind of like, hey, what happened here? Yeah.
Yeah. What was all that?
No, Ann Archer shows up as the first lady. I'm like, hey, Ann Archer, I haven't seen her in like 20 years. And then after that, I'm just, okay, whatever.
Well, to be fair, this was 20 years ago.
Ryan, what are you thinking about the arguments? I know if you want to respond to it.
I liked Dylan's fervor, even though I disagreed with about 95% of what he said. I was mostly on Ben's side. The drab, washed out color palette, I am sick of it. I'm done with it. And mercifully, the movie was only 93 minutes long. That was fine. But it did slide off my brain in real time. Like by the time the movie was over, I'd forgotten what happened in the first half and I didn't care. But I do remember when Burt Reynolds showed up, I was like, oh shit, Burt Reynolds, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then he does nothing.
I felt the same way about James Woods, as problematic as the guy is, but he's still an okay performer. And if he's
back then, that was when he was known as an actor instead of just kind of being shitty to people on Twitter.
Right.
But as far as direct-to-video action goes, I've seen a lot worse. Like Cyborg Cop 2 is worse than this.
Thank you.
But Universal Soldier is better, so it's kind of it's in the lower aughts.
Cyborg Cop 2 was worse than this, raves Ryan Luis Rodriguez. They should put that on the cover.
But the thing that really stuck with me, though, is that this is 10 years after Jerry Maguire, and what a fall Cuba Gooding Jr. had. My God.
Where is
and
this
the
in relation to
conveniently
Snow Dogs?
dying cell phone, just plug it in. Plug it in once, for God's sake.
Dogs, right? It's after Snow Dogs, right, Ryan?
Yes, it is.
Snow
It's
Dogs?
4 years
You love
after Snow Dogs.
All right. But to me, you hit to me the magic word, and I think Ben brought it up, that this was direct to DVD. Now, I understand he's saying there were plans for it to maybe go into theaters, but then I think obviously the producers saw that maybe the budget wasn't there, they weren't going to pull people, and they pivoted and they went to straight to DVD. I don't know how you guys feel, but I actually do kind of have a handicap scale for like straight to direct to video, TV movies. I expect these to be lower budget and therefore a little bit lower quality, especially in terms of effects. And on that sliding scale for this kind of budget movie, I think they put together a pretty good cast. I think that's probably the strongest gem in its crown, is just the cast they got here. Granted, they're at certain places in their careers, but like Burt Reynolds is still good in this. He puts out good scenes.
Well, I actually thought it was interesting. It didn't really come into the discussion too heavily in the courtroom, but the performances were not the problem. I thought people were putting in a shift.
The defense brought up performances. I mean, he didn't harp on it, but he certainly
All right. No,
added
good to
it
hear.
to the exhibits. As far as the twist itself, I know we kind of touch about it, and I think that's the kind of thing that would keep this from being an action movie. I mean, there's no chase in the end. There's no big blowout, and it's not supposed to. It's supposed to kind of take the air out of the ball, and I think that's what makes it the political thriller. It's like, oh, it was. As much giant political motivations as there could be to kill the president, there's also the personal. And, and I think that's what the wife says. You're too close to it. Don't know why she would dangle that in front of a guy who could potentially put her in jail, which is a problem I have with the end. Like, arrest her. I don't arrest her. I know who
why
cares
not tell? Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, they killed him. And then a bunch of other people. Like, I think the public will still be on the murdered president's side. Who cares who he slept with? Like, it's not that big a deal anymore. Killing people still is.
What hit me about when I was watching this is, in a way, this will sound weird. It reminded me of Die Hard, but not in any way that you might think.
Because it's a Christmas movie?
Well, there's that. Obviously, it was a gift to us all, but no, the thing about one of the things I've always thought is interesting about Die Hard is that they're doing a robbery, and they decide as a way to cover up their robbery is to pretend to be terrorists, which is much worse and is going to get you a lot more heavy attention. Whereas in this one, it's like, they're hiding a murder of passion in a big terroristic sort of like an assassination, masking it with something that is maybe in some arguably worse than a murder. It reminded me of that, but I think one of the genius in Die Hard is they reveal that in the first act, essentially. I think if it would have been the twist of the whole movie, we'd be remembering Die Hard as that really cool action movie with a really dumb twist at the end. And so anyway, that just struck me that it just, I don't know. I feel like they could have gotten away with it better if it was earlier in the movie somehow and done something with it. It just didn't hit me as a big woohoo at the end.
Yeah, like Ben said, like the president might be too. Maybe if this was even a senator, then maybe his wife would have the pull to get him killed. But I don't think the first lady has got the pull to get the president killed.
Congressman, maybe.
Right. Yeah, like anything lower. But I think I don't think you could pay even any professional hitman to kill the president, because he knows he will get caught. He knows he won't get away with it. And I think so I think he would only do it if the killer was really personally connected. Maybe was the wife's other lover. I could buy something like that, all personally motivated, but I don't think you ever get a professional hitman involved. So I don't know that I buy all the plot, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff that would make this movie maybe not great, but is it enough to get it to bad? Ryan, what are you thinking? Where are you?
Oh, I'm locking in bad, baby. This is bad to the bone. This is a gentleman's 3. Ugh. Oof.
What's getting at 3 points for you, though?
Oh, because it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. That's why, I got to give it a little credit. Like, I didn't despise it, but at the same time, I was resentful that I was being made to watch it.
That's how we make you watch everything. You can't resent every movie we make you watch. You're assigned everything.
Don't listen to him, Ryan. You can do it. I believe in you.
However, I think it's funny that this shows our sliding scale. To me, it's like, I didn't despise that. That might be enough to get you over to me, if it's bad, I despise you. And to say that you didn't despise it, but you're guilty. Let's see what Dwight's thinking.
Oh gosh. I really admire the defense's work that was put into this. Even some of the tap dancing around, maybe looking for some depth that I think maybe was a little bit of a pipe dream. And I feel like there's a little too much relying on it being off camera in the plot. I will say the action stuff, I don't, I'll go there with you. Decent action, and I really kind of liked the part where the school kids were shooting the guy
Almost
with water.
got shot.
I kind of wondered if he crashed when they shot him in the face with the water. Actually, that would have made this that would have raised this 2 stars. Let's be honest. But I gotta say though that with this being more like you described, I like how you described it, more of a thriller than an action movie, and just having so much that's exposition and such. I just can't forgive the plot pace, the twists and pacing and confusing journey of the movie. So I have to lock in bad.
Guilty. The word is guilty. I know
Guilty,
Ryan used
guilty.
bad, but don't let him be an example to you. The term is guilty. Of being
I
a
just
bad
want to
movie
be
trash.
like Ryan when I grow up.
Well, better start eating. Now let's see.
The fuck was that supposed to mean?
It's a line from The Simpsons.
Wow.
It's just an automatic reply. Let me think here. I didn't despise this movie, and I don't think I want to go unanimous. I know it won't matter, but I think I do want to put a little tick because I thought there was a lot of passion Schlendzo brought. I thought he did as much as he could to bring the good out of this movie. And I do think that it being kind of a lower budget, straight direct to DVD, that gives it a little sliding scale. You know, it's graded on a curve. And that curve comes out to be like, not that bad. If you were just going to rent this, you're not paying a bunch of money. If it's on TV, if you could find it, it's not that bad. It's okay. You probably would never watch it again, but I don't think you'd hate it, which is probably why it's kind of forgettable. So I'm going to go not guilty, but it don't matter. So let's get out there and tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. I forgot I was him. In the case of The People versus Endgame, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie. Show me the money.
The verdict is so rendered. Endgame is hereby canceled, joining James Woods and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s careers. Court is adjourned.
Why did Cuba get canceled? That's a real thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sexually assaulted. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I didn't know that.
Proven? I mean, I'm just saying.
More like Cuba
Convicted.
batting Junior.
Mask if he was convicted.
Ooh.
Hello, this is Caitlin Crawford, a freelance reporter, reporting you live outside the Reels of Justice. I want to remind everyone I'm a freelance reporter, so no matter what my editor says, I can publish this wherever I want.
Damn right, girl.
So, Big Beautiful Ben. Whoa, sorry. Could you back up a little? You're too close. Anyway.
You smell so good, though.
Well, I want to remind you, this is not an actual date. Unless you would care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict.
Well, I can't oblige. There was a moment there where I thought I was going to live in a world where Tampopo was guilty and this would be allowed to walk free. So I did panic more than I thought I would listening to those deliberations. I disagree with Maynard's DVD curve because often the times we're like paying the same amount of time and the same amount of money to see a good film. So what difference does like a direct to DVD get us? Nothing.
If you're renting a movie for $13, you're stupid.
You're spending your 90 minutes one way, you're spending your 90 minutes another way, and it's coming to free in whatever streaming service you have. It ain't, you need to value your time better. But I'm glad justice was served. This is a bad movie. It's not a horrible movie. The bus thing was okay, but it's I don't know. I need a drink.
Well, let's clink. Speaking of that, let's clink our glasses, and we'll suddenly cut out here. And and I can see here comes a lawyer for the defense.
You must know his name.
Oh, yes. I'm stumbling over defense. The word defense. So, Schlender. Once again, you're too close. Back up just a little bit, please. I want to remind you that
Can't
this
wait
is
for my date.
This is also not a date unless you can tell us how you also feel about the verdict today.
I gotta say, when I watched the movie the first time, I was like, oh my God, I don't have a snowball's chance in hell. Like, this is really bad. And there were so many deficiencies we didn't even get into that would have been harder to defend. But I got to admit, watching it the second time, knowing that they're coming, I mean, I know none of you guys will probably watch it a second time, but you have to trust me. It's actually a lot more enjoyable on the second watch. So the first watch, I was with all you guys. I'm like, yeah, this is guilty. I'll give it the best defense I can. But then when I watched it the second time, I was like, actually, you know what? There's some stuff here that actually works. I think I could get this one over the line. But no, Big Ben takes me down for the third and final time. He's the only guy here I can't beat. Well, maybe not final. I'm sure there's another Star Trek movie. You know, but I crushed Maynard. I crushed Ryan. I cannot crush Ben. So here we are. But thank you for your time, guys.
You need to stop saying, sure, I'll defend Nemesis. Sure, I'll defend Endgame. That's your key.
And I know what you did last summer. And frankly, the guest juror, and I know what you did last summer, said I had the better case, just hated the movie too much. So there you go.
At least you don't hold a grudge.
No, I just listened to it. I was like, I got to get my notes together for when I face off against Ben.
All right. Well, thank you. That's great. Let's thank you all for going. Let's all pull off our pants and go for a nice swim, and then cut back to the studio for post-trial analysis.
Nobody fart in my face.
No deal.
Whoops.
Oh, no.
No promises.
Well, everyone, I want to take a minute to just address something I didn't bring up in the case because I didn't want to get accused of being emotionally manipulative or anything like that. But we have a very good fan out there in the audience, a great family man, a man who has, they say you can tell the worth of a man by the people who call him friend. Well, this man has lots of people who call him friends, and Dwight and I actually know him, and that man is Phil Rossi, and he's been going through a lot in his life, but he's strong, he's a fighter, and we're all going to be here, we're all going to be pulling for him. And he reached out to the Reels of Justice asking just to get Endgame recommended as a recommendation of justice, but I use my considerable power and ego here to make everyone watch it and to do a
Principal
case
Hulse
on
gets
it.
you, right?
Exactly. And there was no better man, no better friend to do this for our friend Phil than Dwight. So Dwight, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. And Phil, this one was for you. God, I hope you thought it was guilty too, but that's the way it ended.
I was gonna say, so this good friend of yours asked for you to recommend a movie he might have liked, and so you decided to drag it over the coals in our podcast.
No,
we fillet and dissect every movie.
Hey,
wow.
it reminds me of like in The Simpsons, right, where like Lisa writes the letters like, "I want the torch to come through Springfield," and I say we bring her the whole Olympic Games. Well, it's my decision anyway, so I was just like, I'm putting it on the board.
It's not just your decision.
No, I hope you like the case, man.
Yeah. So Phil, this one's for you, buddy.
We love you, Phil.
God bless.
We appreciate it, Phil. I don't know you, Phil, but I've heard things, good things.
But he knows you because he listens to the show.
Oh, I love that. I love
There
people
you
that
go.
know me.
The life of a celebrity.
We do have our guest Dwight here. So, Dwight, what's been keeping you busy lately? What have you been up to?
Well, I'm churning out a lot of interviews over on my podcast, which is The Broken Brain. It's a podcast about mental health and kind of the intersection of psychology and culture and a bunch of other things. And it's been actually kind of exciting. I've had a bunch of experts on talking about some mental health, trauma, narcissism. And then I've also got a lot of indie filmmakers that I've been able to interview as well, talking about their projects. And so, yes, people check that out on anywhere you get podcasts, obviously.
Tremendous show.
Well, thank you. I think all of you have been on it, but at one time or another, and multiple
times,
for some of you. Yeah, exactly.
I was asked to leave.
That didn't happen. No.
Just once.
I will say
You still
also
came back.
one of the cool things is I will give this little shout out to you guys too. You guys were all kind enough to come on my annual. You have been in years past as well, but to come on the annual opioid overdose awareness live stream that I do each year. And this particular time I was lucky to have all four of you guys on there with Izzy Turan as well. And I got one of the comments that I got immediately following was someone who was really mentioned how what a cool group of men, very, very positive examples of positive, supportive, sweethearted, positive masculinity to hear on there.
That's me.
As everybody shared. So
to
except
a T.
one,
And the rest.
but I won't say which one. No, but they,
An
yeah,
astute-
that
an
was something that
astute
really
observant-
stood out.
Wait, is this the same live stream that I cried during?
The very same.
Okay.
The very same. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're doing good work, Dwight, and we're happy to help in any way we can. If we reach even one person, well, that's a terrible return because there's four of us. So hopefully we can get at least 4 or
One
5.
person each. Yeah.
You gotta start somewhere.
I know
I'm
I'm inspiring more. I'm touching thousands every day.
Stop that.
Awesome. So we're gonna check out The Broken Brain, and we're gonna check
It's a
out,
great show, yes.
and I'm sure we'll have another opioid awareness.
Oh no,
That's
no,
right.
we kicked it. There's no more
It's,
opioids.
we'll see if it's still around. Yeah.
USA.
I don't know when this episode airs, but the next episode of One Track Mind co-stars Dwight.
Oh, no
is
way.
it coming out now? That was so fun.
That comes out on
What a
Sunday.
great show.
What movie did you guys do on that one?
The People's Joker.
Oh, the interesting
Great
pick.
film.
All right, I look
Amazing
forward to that.
film.
Exactly. So get your Hurst burst on there.
Yeah,
And,
for sure. That's
absorb.
going in the canon, that term.
Please do.
that
Now,
is a good
we
one.
always ask our guests for recommendations of movies you think people should see. So, Dwight, you were the closest thing we had to a guest. What do you think people should see?
Wow, thank you. No, well, you know what? That means a lot. It makes me feel like family to be here, and it actually really does. I feel
You are
like
family.
very
Olive
good
Garden.
being on here.
When
Thank
you're
you.
here, your family.
Permanent new co-host Dwight. I got you. I understand. I'm
Wait, what?
reading between
That
the
uncle
lines.
that comes in for Thanksgiving.
Bye,
sometimes.
Schlendzo. This case is an elimination, single elimination
Well,
tournament.
you guys can all rock paper scissors see who has to go. But no, I was
Be
thinking
fighting
about it.
each other over who could
I'll
get out.
self-deport. Yeah.
I've been thinking deeply about this ever since I remembered that I need to have a recommendation. And actually, if you want to look for a movie that is about tangentially about a presidency and Secret Service agents' relationship with a first lady, you might have a lot more fun watching Guarding Tess, which is a movie from 1994, where you get to see a Nicolas Cage and Shirley MacLaine bounce off of each other's performances and bringing just a really, really cool energy. This was also written and directed by Hugh Wilson, who I didn't know. However, he also was a writer for WKRP in Cincinnati. For if you know, that's a plus. It's the story of Nicolas Cage is the head of a Secret Service detail protecting a former first lady. It was a first lady widow, as was brought up in the case today, and she is just very, very much. She's a lot to deal with. She's very much of a pain for all of the
Shirley
staff.
MacLaine, right?
She brings it. Shirley MacLaine really brings it in this performance. Nicolas Cage starts out the movie, of course, just resenting the hell out of this detail and hoping that he will be able to shake it at one point. And as the film goes on, you just see things happen. At one, where there's real issues that do come up in this. And I will say, for as much as it could have just been a very, very, silly movie, there is plenty of humor to be had in the way they interact with each other. But there's a lot that ends up being quite touching in the relationship, the core relationship that you see between these two. And so, yeah, if you want something that's been around for a while that a lot of people may not remember or may not have seen, check out Guarding Tess.
Dwight, you had me at Nicolas Cage.
Awesome.
And actually, that is a great recommendation. That is a pretty great movie. I like that one.
Yeah, no, I would have, much like Ben, I felt nervous trying to Google movies about presidential assassinations. So I did it.
There's no assassination in this. There is a kidnapping.
Okay.
Not spoiler. Yeah. Second act.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Still probably would put
Second act
gentle list,
spoiler,
though.
I guess. Yeah.
Happens in the trailer, exactly.
True.
So
There you
who
go.
do we want to let go first? Big Ben, you won, so you get to go
Big Ben
first.
goes.
What's your
Continuing my walk-commendations, A Journey into Chinese Cinema is yet another film from Zhang Yimou. I guess I probably should have called them my Rec Yimou-dations, but he is one of the most prolific Chinese directors, as it turns out, so he's worth checking out.
Recommendation?
Nope, that's worse.
That said, well, I do recommend today's film. It isn't quite my favorite of his bunch. Kind of like with Miyazaki and Ponyo, I don't think the guy makes a bad film, but there are just a few that are noticeably less spectacular. But regardless, today is Shanghai Triad, which is something of a thriller, like today's subject. A young boy, with the help of his uncle, is put into the service of a famous singer who happens to have the eye of a crime boss, as well as a few up-and-comers in the crime world. And so he witnesses firsthand some of the nasty dealings while silently trying to look at the ground in the corner and bring his mistress her soup when she calls. It features themes of corruption of innocence, the machinery of evil, and the time period of the 1930s traditionalism making way for the modernity. Like all of like all of his work, this film is expertly shot, but it just isn't quite as eye-poppingly vibrant as later films like Hero might be. I had the chance to visit Shanghai a little under a decade ago, and they've done a great job of peeling back the layers of time. The same way over here we might marvel over a film that depicts 1930s New York. Yeah, it has that kind of feeling. So if you're curious about this director, but sword fights aren't your thing, and you Philistine, if that's the case, Shanghai Triad and Raise the Red Lantern are probably your next best bets.
I mean, I always like sword fights in my movies.
Yeah, so do I. So does everyone here, right?
Unless it's that stupid double sword from Conan, but the less said about that, the better.
I'd like to hear more about the double sword, perhaps. And
forgot all about that.
Everyone did.
But Schlendzo, why don't you give us your recommendation? You know those swords that are like double swords? Anyway, give us your recommendation.
Well, Maynard, I'm never one to say no to an animated movie, even if it's an uninspired Disney sequel. I dare say, especially if it's an uninspired Disney sequel. Which brings me to Zootopia 2. Boy, I hope you like Zootopia 1 and Frozen 2, because this movie is basically just those two movies smashed together. I wish I could point to something good to truly nail this recommendation, but alas, there's just not enough meat.
Froztopia, that does it.
Bone. I mean, that's what this movie is. It's the plot of Frozen 2 in Frozen 1. It's
Frostopia sounds like they should make some frosty shakes or something. It's delicious.
Maybe
it's all about heart with this kind of a movie, though, you know. And I'm with you. I think it sells it.
Let me just say,
you're recommending
it. Is remarkable. I am recommending it. You got to recommend it that way. I want everyone to suffer with me. You know, is really what it is. You know, it's like I'm a deeply unhappy man. If only there was a mental health podcast that would help me work through this. But since there isn't, let me just continue with my recommendation. It is remarkable that such interesting characters from the first could go so unexplored and, I dare say, regress so much. Still, I suppose it's impressive that it's not worse, but I do challenge anyone that watches it to tell me anything substantive about it a week later. It's probably streaming on Disney+, but you should really buy the Blu-ray DVD combo for a more authentic experience. Support your local library.
I like DVD combos.
See, there you go. You'll love Zootopia too, then.
Are those the DVDs that are pretzels with cheese inside?
Ooh.
That is an old person.
Oh,
cut.
they do.
Sorry.
My CVS has do them.
Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
no, they do. It's
go
not
to the
a bad
local CVS and get some
pizza
combos.
Flavored. That's mine.
You gotta do the pizza flavor, man.
Oh, snap.
Anyway, but I still haven't even seen the first Zootopia. I kind of want to see the second one because Ryan said the bunny lady was really sexy.
She is.
Speaking of Ryan, recommendation.
Zootopia 2.
My truck-commendation this week. I had to pause for that one. It's a difficult one for me in that I relate to it so hard. Mike Leigh's 2024 masterpiece, Hard Truths. It's about a miserable woman who finds the rotten core in everything and the loving and patient family that manages to put up with her. It's basically the inverse of Happy-Go-Lucky. The big news here is that Leigh is reuniting with lead actor Marianne Jean-Baptiste after another masterpiece, 1996's Secrets and Lies. Jean-Baptiste is perfect. Every petty squabble, every side-eye glance, every explosive complaint, she does not play a false note. It is more anxiety-inducing than most of those A24 horror movies about trauma, and if you can handle it, it's well worth your time. Hard Truth is currently streaming on Peacock.
On where, I'm sorry?
Peacock!
Peacock.
Come on.
No,
you gotta get Ryan to
I'm gonna
do
do
it just once.
Hey-o.
It'll happen one time.
Exactly.
Maynard, send us on home,
I'm gonna
baby.
send us on home. My recommendation today has the exact same title as our defendant. Well, almost. And it was already name dropped earlier by Big Ben. It's 2000's Highlander Endgame.
Nice.
Yeah!
An evil immortal named Kell can only be vanquished by the combined strengths of Highlanders Connor and Duncan MacLeod. Highlander, there can be only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know, like 16. Every dude in this movie seemed like an immortal until they got killed. I'm not too familiar with this particular universe. I'm sure Big Ben could explain all of it to me.
Oh, I will.
But I guess if you cut someone's head off, you get their powers, and that means there's a whole bunch of decapitation, and that made for a fun watch. Fans of professional wrestling in the Attitude Era, as I was, will recognize this title for its cameo of then, and maybe soon again, WWE superstar Edge. Long before he was the rated R superstar, he appeared in this film, also rated R, which was enough to get me to rent it at the time. Likely on one of those newfangled digital video discs. It'll never catch on. Though I don't recall it making much of an impression on me. However, on this rewatch, I found it to be a pretty fun little swashbuckling style adventure set in a modern urban landscape. There's magic, there's skyscrapers. I assume I might enjoy it more if I was actually familiar with these characters, but I never saw the original 1986 film, probably because it didn't have a professional wrestler in it, except for Jumping Jim Brunzell. He was in the original. Oh, and Greg Gagne and the Tonga Kid. And all 3 Fabulous Freebirds. Okay, I'll see the original and probably all the other 90s sequels. And if you want to check them out too, Highlander Endgame, no space, is currently streaming, unlike End Space Game, on Pluto TV. Support your local advertisers.
Ooh.
I'm mad you took it from me that I could never recommend it again, but I'm happy it got recommended.
When you brought it up, I had to go look on Letterboxd to make sure you actually hadn't recommended it before. I'd be like, oh god damn it, I wouldn't expect that at all.
Well, I almost put my recommendations on hold for it, so it was close. It was razor thin.
All right, well, we would have doubled up because unlike Ryan, I don't have these things cashed up. I don't have one saved.
I finally started cashing them up. That's why I'm trying to remember what happened in Zootopia 2. I saw it like 3 weeks ago.
See, you got to write it down at the time.
What happened at the beginning of Endgame, Dylan? Can you remember? Because I can't.
The president gets assassinated.
Oh, right.
No, now we're all on a list. That's it. We're out of time. Dwight's on the list. He's sitting on my lap. We're at a show, but we want to thank our guest, Dwight Hurst, for joining us. Thank you so much, Dwight.
Glad to be here anytime, literally. So thank you.
Next week, we're gonna get our Hurst
back
on.
He stole my joke.
He stole my bit. See, that's my bit. You can't steal I stole your bit.
6-string samurai.
We're going to have you back, and we hope everyone else will join us then as well, as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Suspense.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.